Wow, Project Week. But before we talk about Project Week, I'd like to recite for you a verse that the high school teachers do every Thursday. And I'd like you to listen to that and give you a glimpse of our thoughts about our students. Shining Mountain Waldorf High School guides adolescents on a journey of discovery to find their place in the world. We educate individuals to realize capacities of lively independent thinking, artistically cultivated feeling, and moral courage for responsible action. We strive with adolescents to develop this full measure of human potential and to find their life's work. So, Project Week happens every year, about roughly September 25th, the last week of September. And it's during Michaelmas time that we're out. Often it's brisk weather, beautiful maybe Indian summer weather. This year, some of us were very hot, at least in the day. And it's a time when we can breathe out into the larger world, and 3 of the 4 Project Weeks have a community service component to them. And so we have students here who are going to speak about their experiences for a few moments. And these can be some of the pivotal experiences together as a group in their high school career. And it's a great way to kick off the year. So for the 9th grade, we're going to have Hannah Mason and Riley Marshall speak about their experience. Hannah and Riley?
For this year, for Project Week, the 9th grade went to Crescent Farms. We stayed for 5 days, 4 nights. And it was a really, really great experience. In the morning, some of us would get up and go milk the cows or brush them. And we'd get up at 6 o'clock really early. So the sun wasn't up yet. So it was really cool. Everything was quiet. And you could just stand with the cows and brush them. And some of us went out to harvest vegetables such as onions, squash, carrots, and pumpkins. And that was really fun because you get to get in the ground and dig up vegetables. And often we would have the vegetables we dug up for lunch or dinner. The second thing you could do during one of these shifts was paint a chicken shed. It was just this plain color blue, and some of us painted murals on it, which ended up being really beautiful. And the last crew, you could cook. So that was preparing the food for lunch, putting out all the snacks and stuff for the people who were harvesting and painting. And in the evening we would gather around the campfire and tell stories, and we had a talent show, which was really interesting. And during the night when the sun set, we would gaze up at the stars, which was really cool. My favorite part about this trip was getting to know my class because I hadn't been here in 8th grade. So it was just this time where I could really get to know them, not in a school environment, and it was just really good.
To ferment vegetables, 3 of us went inside with Ursula into her house. We shredded cabbage and other greens and peppers, put them in a 5-gallon bucket, and took something that looked like a baseball bat and squished them until they were mush. Put seasoning on them, garlic, and other things, and put a top on it. And that fermented vegetables will last the farm the whole year. Thank you.
Thank you, 9th grade. From the 10th graders, Sabina Flandrick and Joe Johnson.
For Project Week this year, our 10th grade class went up to Rocky Mountain National Park for 4 days. For the first day, we went to a part of the park where trees were being taken down for a new road to be built. Our job was to collect the trees and put them in the dump truck. We did it for 8 hours as community service with the help of other volunteers. The second day, we first of all went on a couple-mile hike up to Cub Lake. We then came down to the Estes Park YMCA. At the YMCA, we also were able to swim and take showers. I know that was definitely a highlight for the class. And the third day, we did 8 more hours of community service, this time by restoring a trail. What we did was we put in place these logs that lie across the trail acting kind of like steps and that are supposed to prevent water erosion. The job consisted of a lot of digging, collecting and placing rocks, and then also shaving the bark off the logs, which I thought was fun. The trip was a great opportunity to get back together as a class and start off a new year.
We had the unique opportunity to experience the high ropes course at the YMCA of the Rockies. We put on harnesses and helmets and headed over to the course. I watched as my classmates climbed up the trees and started walking across the ropes. Finally, the moment I had been anticipating arrived. It was my turn to climb the tree. I placed one foot after another on the 2-inch wooden metal pegs climbing up the tree and started my climb. 35 feet above the ground, I stopped and did something I would regret for the next 30 minutes. I laid down. I was not scared until that moment, but then I was terrified. Took my carabiners to the upper cable and I held onto the ropes and walked across the wooden beam to the next tree. Upon reaching the next tree, I switched the clips to start my journey on a very thin cable to the tree that held the platform of the zip line. When I arrived there, I yelled horse check to make sure there were no horses that would get hit by me going down the zip line. I looked down the path of the zip line knowing I had to jump. I took a deep breath and leapt to my fate.
And in 11th grade, we have Dayton Clark and Christopher Walsh.
So for our project week, we went up to the Great Sand Dunes. What we did there was we helped out the rangers, and we did lots of stuff for them. But one of the more important tasks was picking Russian thistle, which is a gigantic weed. It took us about 2 hours, 25 of us, to pick the Russian thistle from an area about the size of this room. It's kind of amazing that we realized this park really depended on us, groups like us, to come and pick their Russian thistle and make it a nice place for everyone. The other part of the time we spent in the sand dunes was spent in the sand dunes. One of my highlights in the sand dunes was jumping off the sand dunes. You went like 20, 30 feet down these massive dunes. And that's probably where the fun ended, because when you got down, you realized you had to walk all the way back up.
I'm Dayton Clark. So after finishing our work in the sand dune, we moved our location to Crestone, Colorado, where we were about to immerse ourselves in some spiritual experiences. So we stayed at this guy's house who had been ordained by a Native American medicine man and is able to perform Native American ceremonies, and we slept in a teepee. And then after settling in, we began the preparation of the sweat lodge. So we built a huge fire to heat 28 stones, and we also made prayer ties filled with tobacco, which is a Native American tradition, to be put in the sweat lodge. So at first I had said, no way, I'm not doing the sweat lodge, I'm scared of the dark and of heat, and it's just no. But then Chris, the man who was conducting the ceremonies, kind of explained it more, and I decided I was gonna do it. He said you could leave at any time. So when we first went in there, they brought in the stones one by one, and they got to 7. The first 7 are done in silence. I thought, okay, this is all right. And then he says, so there are gonna be 28 stones in this room. And then I kind of freaked out. But once I brought them in and it got through the first round, it's in 4 rounds, it was just a really incredible experience. And I think it brought us all closer. And by even going in there, we definitely all slayed our dragons of fear. So then the next day, as we were going home, we stopped and visited a Bhutanese Buddhist temple, which was incredibly beautiful and really colorful, and invited us to chant along with them. And at first we kind of just like mumbled along, not really chanting or trying. And then by the end, I think we were almost all chanting together. So overall, I think Project Week was really amazing for our class. From the hard work we did, which really helped out the Rangers, and then we got to see kind of a whole other world of religious faiths that none of us were really familiar with. So it was really cool.
To finish up the project weeks, we'll have Sarah Larson and Lucas Emmer talk about the senior solo trip.
So we seniors went on our senior solos, which is where we go out and we sit by ourselves for 2 days and 2 nights and really think about our lives. And so actually our senior solo started last year when Nancy Jane and Nathan Hartman came and they told us a little bit about us, and they told us like what it was going to be like and what we were to expect, but also what we want to get out of it. And there's no real one way to do it. And so we started out with intentions, what we wanted to bring on the trip. Do we want to relax? Do we want to get to know ourselves better? Do we want to think about our future? We made our camp near Grand Junction, and we had circles, and we really got to know each other and talked more about clarifying our intentions. Then the next day we went out and found our solo sites, the spot that spoke to us and that we wanted to spend the next 2 days and 2 nights in. And then on the 3rd day, we went out by ourselves, found our site, sat down, and began our solos. And it was a really intense experience. You go through a lot of emotions, you go through a lot of thoughts. But it was amazing, and when you come back to a family. And although it was a solo, it was also a group thing because there was such a great support system from our parents and our friends, especially our classmates. And on the final day, we had something called a gift ceremony, where each person had a gift for another. They did not know who this person was. So they set their gift in the center, and then each of us chose a gift and spoke to why we chose it. And that closed our experience, and it was quite impressive.
I'm Lucas Semrod, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what my solo was for me. And so I've always kind of liked being alone, so I was like, oh, this is no big deal, I'm just going to be alone for 2 days. And so I set out on the morning of the solo and got out there and set up my tent, and then I looked around and I was like, oh, there's no one here. And it was really kind of a strange experience. Then I was fasting, and I started to realize how hungry I was. And I was thinking about every meal I've had in the last year. About like all the food I hadn't eaten. Oh, why didn't I finish that poppy seed muffin? It was so good. Thinking about all the food that Claude was making for the juniors. Sunset, went to sleep, slept 15 hours, which was amazing. And the next day when I woke up, it was more about soul searching and just kind of thinking about my class, myself, how I related to the world, what I wanted to do. And then they suggested that we try and stay up the entire night, the second night, to just kind of be with ourselves. And I tried, but it didn't work. So I woke up the next morning and packed up, ready to get back to my class, left early. And I was trying to get to the road and I saw a new way to get there. And so I thought to myself, oh, this will be a faster way. I'll get back all quick, I'll be the first one there. It wasn't. So
He was the last one.
yeah. So I was lost for the next hour, trying to get on top of high points to find the road, couldn't find it anywhere. Finally found like these water tower things that I knew the road was by them, so I tried to get to them, finally did. Ran back to camp, got back, I was drenched in sweat head to toe, but it was really good to see my class, and it, like Sarah said, it just gave me a sense of community that I hadn't felt before with other people, because I knew they'd had similar but incredibly different experiences to mine.